Michigan broke a 25-year national championship drought in the Big Ten. Can the Wolverines make it 2 in a row, even with a surprise coaching change?
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, folks? Happy Friday and welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast. We are your co-hosts. I'm Andy Patton. He is Isaac Schade, and we are doing number 4 in our pre-game or our pre-season series, discussing as many top 25-ish teams as we can, especially with so much news happening in college basketball here in late August. Not always having time, but found a team that we think isn't going to have too much roster turnover, although, of course, there's a new update we'll get to in a second, because we're talking about the Michigan Wolverines today. They're joining UConn, Arizona, and Florida, the first 3 of our season preview episodes. We're going to be talking about the biggest storylines for Michigan coming into this season, some updates on this roster after losing 4 starters from last year. Of course, also their head coach, some lineup projections, their schedule, record predictions. How will this team do coming off of last year's national championship? And you can check out all of these shows. We have a playlist on YouTube. Of course, you can find them in your audio feed as well. Isaac, we're going to throw it to you first here to talk about what are the biggest storylines for this Michigan team, again, coming off that title last year, looking to defend the crown in 2027.
Yeah, Andy, let's get right into this. For those of you who this might be your first of our team previews, we're trying to identify the 3 biggest storylines for each team in these team previews so that you can take them away as bite-sized chunks. So here it is for the Michigan Wolverines, the reigning national champions. Number 1, bye-bye Dusty May. Can Michigan not only figure things out, but can they get right back to the top of the mountain without Dusty May, who's off to Dallas? We'll look at that. Number 2, he's not the only guy out the door. As Andy said, 4 of the 5 starters are gone. Of course, the one that's back is the reigning mop of the Final Four, Elliott Cadeau. But you had, in particular, this huge, massive starting front court that was a big, literally big reason why Michigan dominated so often last season. And now you got to replace literally all of that, those guys all out the door. And then thirdly, can Trey McKenney become a superstar? We really saw him, Andy, start to come along as the season went on last year, which is what you want from your freshman to do. And we saw the glimpses of it. Can he now step in and be an absolute superstar for not Dusty May, but the Michigan Wolverines? So there's the 3 storylines. Dusty May's gone. So's the front court. And can Trey McKenney be a breakout superstar?
Yeah, I think that's a perfect summation of kind of where this Michigan team is at. And really, it absolutely starts with the head coaching change. That's not the reason, obviously, that the front court is gone. Aday, Mara, and Yaxel Lendeborg was out of eligibility. Mara and Merez were almost certainly going to go to the NBA, regardless of the decision made by Dusty May. But now with May, head coach of the Dallas Mavericks, taking Merez Johnson with him after his team drafted him number 9 in this upcoming draft. This is a new look roster. Cadeau coming back is massive. Obviously, you want your point guard back, especially when you're going through so many changes on the court and off the court with the coach as well. And McKenney is a player we think is going to have a huge season, but it's all going to come back to Coach Boynton. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing, unquestionably. To repeat as national champions is incredibly hard. Danny Hurley's done it. Florida was unable to do it last year, but to do it with a coaching change is unbelievably difficult. And the biggest win already that Boynton has gotten is pretty much keeping his roster intact, because the timing of Coach May's departure put this team in a spot where, again, anytime a coach leaves, it triggers a transfer portal, and there could have been movement there. They did lose LJ Kaysen, and we're not going to pretend that's nothing, but Kaysen was dealing with an injury that was likely going to take him out for a huge chunk of this season. So it's a little bit less of a sting than it would be had he been healthy at the time. And they keep everybody else. They keep Cadeau, they keep McKenney, they keep their incoming freshman class, which is very, very good. They keep the players they landed in the transfer portal, like Moustapha Thiam and JP Estrella and Jalen Reed. And I think it's that alone is really, really good for Michigan. But the question is this going to be a Rodney Terry situation where the team does well because the team is talented, and that maybe gives the coach a little bit more run and leeway, and then you kind of see the wheels come off a few years later? Because Boynton's a great recruiter. Cade Cunningham came to Oklahoma State, and Boynton, when Boynton was the head coach, he can recruit, but the X's and O's are a bit more of the question mark here. And it's I mean, to me, far and away, the most interesting aspect of how this season goes for the Wolverines.
Yeah, the personnel is, because it's like the mixture of the newness of the personnel and the newness of the coaching is something interesting. But Andy, as is so often the case when you see a head coach leave and somebody else elevated, I think it tells you a lot about what the existing players think about him.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that happens and you're like, oh, they must not think he's the guy because they're all gone.
Right.
In this instance, as you said, it's literally just LJ Kaysen, and it's unlikely if he even plays this year in college basketball because of that injury. And so the fact that essentially everybody decided to stay, plus they're able to, retain even these transfers, I think that's most telling. And I think that's a good sign for Coach Boynton. And Andy, it's so hard for me to because all due respect to our friends in Stillwater, it just ain't the level of basketball that they're playing in Ann Arbor. And so it's like, obviously in a much better position at Michigan to be able to win. And so I think he should be great. A lot of people like him and respect him and want to play for him. So it should go well. But Andy, it's the second of these storylines that I think is going to be the most interesting to see, which is the leaving of the front court, because that trio, we wondered last year how they would do, how they would play together, how it was all going to go and all that with Johnson and Lendeborg and Mara, but it just fit, man. Yeah. And in this portal era, sometimes you hit it with that and sometimes you don't. And we've seen Dusty do it multiple times now. You and I talked so much about how the Vlad Golden front court, how that with oh gosh, I can see his face.
Danny Wolf.
Thank you, with Danny Wolf. And that was able to work. So Coach May was like a big whisperer in that regard. And so I'm curious because Cadeau is not the point guard that you're going to go say, get me 22 a night. That's just not where his bread is buttered. He's the true point guard assist man. And so if these guys and McKenney and the new incoming bigs can be that sort of thing that just allows Cadeau to be the distributor who shot better last year, who was able to score when he needed to, like that to me is the special sauce. So I think the new front court's ability to gel well is maybe the biggest thing that I'm watching for.
Yeah, and I think, again, it kind of ties in with the other one here of this front court was built for Dusty May. Like they built the Golden and Wolf front court, and then they built this juggernaut last year with Lendeborg and Mara and Morez Johnson, and it obviously, again, it worked unquestionably. Now you go out and you get Moustapha Thiam, and you get JP Estrella, and you get Jalen Reed, and you have some freshmen coming into the mix as well that I think are going to play real minutes right away, and in Goodman and Cosby and Costello. And I think you're looking at a group that can Mike Boynton get the most out of that group? I mean, I think that's ultimately the question, because that's not necessarily his coaching style. Now he's been learning and adapting and growing from Coach May over the last couple of years that he's been on staff. And I think you're kind of forced to play the style of the previous coach because of the timing of the departure and the fact that the roster stayed together. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but Boynton can probably replicate what this team is trying to do in practices and kind of get them going on the same page. But can he make the in-game adjustments? Can he do the right stuff that Dusty May was able to do in a system that's maybe not the exact system that he used to run? And again, his system was letting Cade Cunningham go to work. That's not Elliott Cadeau. Now that could be Trey McKenney, since I want to give a little bit of airtime to storyline number 3, which was McKenney breaking out. Boynton might be the coach for that. Like that might be an area where you could really see McKenney pop off, because this front court is not going to be as dynamic offensively as Mara and Lendeborg and Morez. Even if May was the coach, they wouldn't be as good offensively. That's just not, this group is a little bit more defense and rebounding focused. So I think McKenney will have a big season. I think he will average 15 or more points per game this year. And I think Boynton's the right coach for that. But the question is if he's the right coach to kind of adapt a similar style to May, because the roster is tailored for that kind of play style.
Well, not only is McKenney back, but Cadeau is as well. As we've talked about, those two key guards from last year's team that just obliterated people at times, Andy Players era, as well as the NCAA tournament, lost 3 total games by a grand total of 16 points. Also, I mean, it's just crazy to look back at last season. So the question is, how does this all come together? What does the starting 5 look like? And a big part of that for us, Andy, is can Brandon McCoy, this incoming freshman, could really make or break the season for the Wolverines. But the question, literally as of today, is this young man going to be healthy? We'll look at that coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Lorene, who's one of our new sponsors here on the Locked On Network. What's up, Lorene? Thanks for joining and partnering with us. They're known for their enamel supporting gum. I've got some packs that they sent along. I've been trying to chew it and check it out. I'm a fan. But now they're also launching these nicotine-free pouches designed to provide clean and clear focus while supporting enamel at the same time. Each pouch contains 50 milligrams of caffeine plus L-theanine and alpha GPC for smooth, steady focus without that energy crash, which I need because I'm about 3 cups of coffee a day, so I can maybe change one of those. And because it's a Lorene product, every pouch also contains that nanohydroxyapatite, the mineral that teeth are made of, which provides daily enamel support between your brushings. I love that. These pouches give you clean focus and support your enamel the whole time they're in. I've been checking it. They've got 3 flavors, mint, cinnamon, and mango. My favorite so far is mint, so go check it out as well. Give Lorene a try right now. Lorene Co. is offering our customers up to 50% off at buylorene.com/lockedoncollege. Again, that's buy, Lorene, LARINE.com/lockedoncollege for up to 50% off. Go check it out today. This episode is also brought to you by Wayfair. Hey, whether you're refreshing one room, getting ready for a brand new season, or you're finally replacing that old furniture you've been putting off, Wayfair makes it easy to find something that fits your home, your style, and most importantly, perhaps your budget. You can shop furniture and decor across a wide range of price points with quality materials and pieces designed to stand up to real life. I got 2 kids. I know what that means, man. We go hard on the furniture, and that's exactly what you're looking for. Plus, with Wayfair Verified, product specialists hand vet selected products through a 10-point quality inspection to check for things like materials and functionality and so much more. So if you're still trying to narrow down what to buy, Wayfair gives you plenty of real shopper feedback to work with. I love it. You've got over like 20 million verified 5-star reviews. I'd been putting off upgrading my home office chair for way too long, this one I'm sitting in right now, because I didn't want to spend a ton without knowing if I would like it. My wife helped me find something on. Now it's incredible and I love it. So join Wayfair Rewards today to get 5% back on every purchase and start saving on your next home upgrade. So head to wayfair.com to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Andy, let's move to talking about the personnel for the Michigan Wolverines. Usually we've been starting this segment by looking at the starting 5, projecting the rotation, but literally in the hour or 2 before we started recording this podcast, Michigan is in Croatia playing some exhibition games. AP, we got some potentially scary news. What happened?
Yeah, about 20 seconds into the game on Thursday afternoon, Brandon McCoy, their star freshman, 5-star kid, top 10, top 15 player in this recruiting class, guy who's very likely going to start for Michigan this year, gets out on a fast break, goes down. It looked like a non-contact injury. The video is a little bit difficult to see everything, but he did not get up on his own power. He was carted off the court. It looked really scary. Like, it looked like a serious knee injury. We are recording this again, like 2 hours-ish after that happened. We've been refreshing to see if there's any updates on his status. Perhaps there'll be an update by many of you by the time many of you are listening to this. But right now, it's a scary time because we don't know if Brandon McCoy suffered an injury that's going to keep him out for the rest of the offseason and into the start of the season, in which case he'll still play, but maybe won't be quite as ready, whether it's an injury that just looked scary but isn't that bad and he's going to be fine in a week, or whether it was as bad of an injury as it looked like, the potential ACL injury where he's out for the entire season and is no longer in the mix for Michigan. Like, it feels like all of those are possibilities at this point. And so it changes a lot of the conversation for us here at this point, because if there is no Brandon McCoy, they have some bench guys that need to step up. Their pursuit that we know is happening, again, as we're recording, of Roddy Gale to return to Michigan, who was on the team last year, won a national championship, becomes even more significant, more diehard for them to try to get him back in the mix if they can get his eligibility sorted out. But yeah, this is a huge storyline, obviously, that we're kind of hoping to get an update here before we finish recording. But as of right now, is a big question mark right now for Michigan's upside, ceiling, and even what their lineup's going to look like.
Well, because the other issue, Andy, and as I was just looking at more stuff to see if we got any update on Brandon McCoy, I had totally missed, and maybe you had seen it, that in one of the previous games on this trip to Croatia, Moustapha Thiam had gotten hurt in his lower leg, but hasn't been playing. But I'm also watching they're like out jumping in the ocean, and it looks beautiful. Oh, by the way, and he's in this video walking around. So I think he's
going to be fine.
But it's just like this is the argument against these preseason international tours. But we got to keep our eyes on both this thing, Andy. So for the purposes of giving our starting five, let's assume health for both of these young men, right? Because whatever. And if we need to give if McCoy's, it's a longer thing, we could give somebody else. But Andy, even though it's a bunch of new, it seems like there's a pretty obvious starting five. Do you feel that way, or do you disagree?
No, I think so as well. I mean, I think Cadeau and McKenney obviously coming back. I know McKenney came off the bench last year, but he's very obviously like your sophomore breakout candidate to start and kind of take over that role from Gale and Burnett, who departed the program. Cadeau obviously is going to start. That's a no-brainer. And then Thiam is going to start as well. I mean, he was one of the best bigs in the transfer portal, a big that's really perfect for Michigan, really, again, perfect for Dusty May's system, coming over from Cincinnati, 7'2" big man, a rim protector, not quite as gifted as a facilitator as Aday was, but still a very talented player. And then from there, there's a little bit of a question mark. Again, I think McCoy healthy, he does start. He's maybe more of a 1 or a 2 than a 3, but I think the talent wins out here, that if everybody's healthy, you still start him at the 3 or start McKenney at the 3. And then the last spot, I've seen some places think maybe it's another freshman, maybe it's a Quinn Costello, somebody like that. I think it's going to be JP Estrella coming over from Tennessee. He's so talented. He's coming over from was a good player in the SEC. I think he fits nicely in that front court alongside Thiam and the bevy of guards that they're going to have. So to me, that's the starting 5. Obviously it changes. If McCoy's hurt, there's a lot of different options they could pursue at that spot, but that's the 5 I got if they're all healthy.
Yep. Andy, I have the exact same 5 as you there. I've also seen some potential, that's not a word, potential where people are thinking maybe Ricky LeBird would be a starter at the 4. So that's just another option in there. We just want to make sure we get all those names, but I'm right with you. If all things being equal, it seems like Cadeau, McKenney, McCoy, Estrella, Thiam, and that's a formidable starting 5. But of course, you always got to see if that goes well, who does what in the lead up to the season, what's the depth look like, and all of that. And so, Andy, that then moves us into X factors. And I'll just go ahead and say, because we're talking about him, I had Brandon McCoy as my X factor, and maybe now so more than ever, he's the X factor. It's just X factor of how's his health? Is he going to be able to play? But it's this thing where you've got the 2 returners in the backcourt, the 2 transfers in the front court, but who are established in college basketball. Right. And so those 4, that quartet, are known entities. Of course, I think McKinney is the one we probably know the least about of those returners, just because he had a lesser role last year as a freshman and is going to have to step up in a big way. But the McCoy, his ability to pop as a freshman, I think, is what really completes this rotation. So that's my X factor. Who's yours, AP?
Yeah, I'm going with a guy that they just added to the roster that, again, as so many players at this time of year being added to the roster, there's some eligibility questions for Kenny Nolan. He's a transfer from Columbia, 5th-year senior looking for eligibility through the Colorado lawsuit that is currently stayed by the NCAA. So he has to get eligible, but if he does and he is able to suit up, the reports coming out of Michigan were that the Boynton and the staff looked at over 70 different point guards to pursue in place of LJ Kaysen after Kaysen hit the transfer portal and ended up going to Miami. They looked at 70 different players. They ended up settling on Kenny Nolan, coming over from Columbia, 17 points a game last year, little under 4 assists, good 3-point shooter, 37.5% on 7 attempts per game. Again, he's got to get eligible. And you got to prove that the scale up happens from the Ivy League. I think we've seen a fair amount of players do have success transferring from the Ivy League up to higher levels. Xavier Lee last year was very good at Florida. I think he's going to be great at Gonzaga this upcoming season as well. Again, eligibility notwithstanding. But for Noland now, like, he might have to take on a much bigger role if McCoy is out. He's more of a one, but I think he ends up playing more if there is any injury issues with McCoy. And even if not, Cadeau has a history of getting in foul trouble, and you need a backup point guard on this roster who can give you big minutes. To me, Noland is vital to this team, whether or not McCoy is healthy. And again, Noland's eligibility is a question for this team as well. If he's not eligible, they got to go back to the drawing board. They got 69 other options. Maybe they'll find somebody that works, but Cadeau is a great player, but you need a vital backup who can play big minutes behind him. They had that last year. Noland is the guy they're hoping can be that guy this year.
Going to be really interesting to see, AP. Anything else on rotation or personnel pieces before we move over to the schedule?
No, I mean, I think I'm excited about this freshman class. I think that's the only other thing. We talked a little bit about Costello and Cosby, but they're guys, top 50 recruits. I'm excited to see what they're able to do this upcoming season and how much they're kind of relied on for this year. But it's an exciting freshman class. Whether or not McCoy plays, I think they still got an exciting group there.
And Marcus Moeller, who is a massive big man coming over from Spain, a 7-footer from Spain playing for Michigan. Went well last year. We'll see what happens with Moeller this year.
Very good point. I think he's 7'3", which so was Mara. So yeah, they found the big boys over there, bringing them over to Ann Arbor. It's going to be fun to see how that goes. Isaac, it's never easy to win back-to-back national championships. It is a heck of a lot harder when your superstar coach is not in the mix between year one and year two. We're going to talk about this Michigan team's schedule. We're going to talk about their chances of repeating as title contenders this year. All that coming up in just a second. The first, folks, today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. If you've got a sweet tooth, you know how tough it is to find that perfect treat without all of the added sugar. And that's why Cotton Candy's 5 Hour Energy Shot bring that nostalgic flavor back in a whole new way. This is that classic cotton candy taste that you remember, but with a tasty caffeine boost and zero sugar. It's a quick, easy way to satisfy that sweet craving while keeping things simple and out on the go. I've always loved cotton candy. Who doesn't love cotton candy? But you can't be eating sweets all day, and this here is a perfect alternative. The flavor really does bring back that throwback fruity vanilla vibe, and it's surprisingly smooth. I also like how convenient it is. It's just a small portable shot that you can grab wherever you need a little pick-me-up. It's become my go-to when I want something sweet without having to go overboard. Bring on the sweetness with Cotton Candy 5 Hour Energy Shots, available online now at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. All right, folks, continuing our conversation here, looking at the Michigan Wolverines coming off a national championship, the first one in the Big Ten since Tom Izzo won it in 2001. They got it done last year, Michigan did. Now they're 4 of their 5 starters out the door, as well as their head coach, Dusty May, who's coaching the Dallas Mavericks these days. We talked about Mike Boynton taking over. We talked about the returners and some of the new key pieces for this team. Now we're going to take a look at the non-conference schedule for this team. And Isaac, this is a team that's scheduled like a team that has national championship aspirations again. They got their bye games, as you typically do, but they got some really good and fun, challenging games here as well.
Yeah, and it's a moment to shout out Rocco Miller, Andy, who I know we love, and because Michigan hasn't actually put out their non-conference schedule yet, but Rocco's got it all, man, at his website, bracketeer.org. Just always like to shout out people doing good work. Andy, you're right. Like, I love that we get a national championship rematch November 6th. That's Friday of the first week of the season. That's up in Boston. I'm assuming it's at TD at the Garden, whatever. And so that'll be good there. Hall of Fame series, UConn, Michigan. That's great. Obviously some bye games as you do. They've got a true road game, Andy, November 21st at Villanova. I don't know how you're feeling about Nova, but I feel like they're going to be better than I've been giving them credit for this offseason. And so I think that is a sneaky good game, Michigan at Villanova. Yeah. So I've just had that one circled when I've looked at Michigan's calendar.
Let me just say this. We typically try to keep depending on how many of these we do, we try to do our team previews to be like the top 30, 35 teams in the country. Isaac, I think we should do Villanova. I think absolutely we should. I think they're in that conversation. Truly, I think they might even be top 25 caliber. Obviously, there's so much roster turmoil still happening in the sport at this point, but I think they're that level of good. And I think what a way for Kevin Willard's team to prove how legit they are to potentially knock off the defending champs in November if they get a chance there. One of the things I love about this non-conference for Michigan, Isaac, they got UConn obviously in the TD Garden, like you said. They're hosting Marquette, which is fairly common because they're relatively regional. Then they're at Villanova, and then the Players Era Festival they play Creighton. Like they're just making the rounds through the Big East this year. Like that's darn near half the Big East. And I know Louisville's not still in the Big East, but they are also playing Louisville on December 5th. That game at the Little Caesars Arena in Detroit.
Yeah, who plays there? Because that's not Ford Field. Is that where the Pistons play?
I don't know who. I know that it's where the Final Four is this year, and I know Duke and Gonzaga are going to play there this year.
Right, because the Final Four is at Ford Field.
Is it?
Yeah, because that's where the Lions play is there.
Right.
So
yeah, I'm not sure who plays at Little Caesars Arena. Then
I'll look it up. It's got to be like the Pistons and the Red Wings or something.
I just still think of the Pistons at the Palace in Auburn Hills, even though I'm pretty sure they're not there.
It's the Red Wings. Yep, I was right. Red Wings and Pistons play there.
There you go. Perfect. That makes sense. Isaac, I really like this schedule. I like the challenge. Obviously, the Players Era Festival. I don't think they're going to outscore their three opponents by 70 points or like 110 points like they did last time. But this is a schedule fit for a team that's ready to truly compete again.
Yeah, I absolutely think so, Andy. And here's I do not expect Michigan to be as good as they were last year. Mm-hmm. And what's funny, and I know we'll talk record and seed projection here in a minute. I missed on Michigan last year. I was lower on them than most people, and I was dead wrong on it. Mm-hmm. And so I want to be higher on them than I was last year. But the problem is a lot of that was I was planning to be higher on them because of Dusty May. Right. He's now gone. And so I'm like pulling back a little from how high I wanted to be on them. So I feel like I need to meet in the middle of where I was at last offseason, where I was going to be this offseason, now that it's Mike Boynton instead of Dusty May. So I think this is a really good non-conference schedule, but they're not going to go like 11-0 or whatever it was that they went last year, 11-1, because I forgot they lost to Duke later on in non-con. But they should lose a couple, and that's okay because it'd be crazy if it happened. I just don't see them being as world beatery as they were last year.
Yeah, and it's a challenging enough schedule that like you would have to be really, really good to be 11-0 through this non-conference. And while I think Michigan is good, I don't think they're good enough to go into. Actually, I'm going 8-3, and I picked the matchups. I think they'll lose UConn because that game is so early in the season. I think that's going to be a challenge for both teams just to be adjusting. But I trust Danny Hurley, especially in Boston for that one. Villanova on the road, I think, is a game that Michigan might lose. And then one of the games in the Players Era Festival, you can kind of pick whichever one that might be. I don't see them winning all of those games again. But even if they lose those three games, that means they beat Marquette. That means they beat Louisville and Detroit. That means they win against either Creighton or TCU or Miami or somebody like that in the Players Era Festival. They still get a lot of marquee wins if they go 8-3. And then transitioning into conference play, I'm not going to read their exact Big Ten schedule but it is out and we do know their matchups. I will say that the teams that they're playing both at home and on the road are Michigan State, Ohio State, and Minnesota, which makes sense. So for me, kind of looking at the schedule where I think this team's at, I had them going 14-6 in the Big Ten. That would put them at 22-9 overall. I think that puts them probably around third in the Big Ten. Probably Michigan State, Illinois are the two teams that I think I feel fairly confident would be ahead of them. Obviously, you got a lot of people are in on USC. Certainly Purdue is going to be in the mix. UCLA is going to be in the mix. Like there's going to be a lot of teams kind of right in that conversation. But give me a 22-9 regular season for Michigan. Give me a team that finishes third in the Big Ten, gets a 4-ish seed, makes a run to the Sweet 16. Like that's kind of where I'm at with Michigan. And interestingly, we talked about this when Boynton was kind of made the official head coach. That feels like kind of right around where he needs to be to solidify that he's going to keep his job going forward. I think anything less than that, and at least he's on the hot seat, obviously better than that, and you feel good about it. But I think that's kind of the line where you're like, well, we're going to give him another shot, but maybe we don't feel great about what happened. Obviously, injuries and stuff like that notwithstanding.
Andy, one thing I'll say is I think they will have one more non-conference game because we're up to 32 total now in the regular season. And so
you don't have to schedule all of them, but yes, that's true. They could schedule another one.
Exactly. And so I would imagine there's one other game we'll get. Anyway, it's funny. I had the same number of wins, but I think they'll go 8-4. And then I was one game worse in conference play at 13-7 for a grand total of 11. And would that be 21-11? And so that would probably, I did like fourth-ish, maybe fifth in the Big Ten, just depending on how things go. Ultimately, I'm going to go. What's funny is I know my record's worse, but I was thinking in my head 3 seed. And so, I mean, we're right around that same spot, though, I think, ultimately in our feelings on Michigan. And I think what you've projected there, Sweet 16, is the right spot. I think ultimately, as I was processing it, I was like, I want to see them make the second weekend. I think that's the goal for Michigan this year. And you have to at least win game 1. I think that's the critical thing. Don't get upset. But I think the expectation should be second weekend for the Wolverines.
Yeah, and I think they'll get there. I think this team is good enough to get there. The experience of a Cadeau and a McKenney coming off a national championship absolutely helps in that regard.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, that, my friends, is our Michigan Wolverines preview for the 26-27 season. Stick with it. We got a bunch more of these coming, and you do not want to miss out on any one of them. If you've not already subscribed to Locked On College Basketball on YouTube and audio, go do it right now so you don't miss a second. Same thing with our Locked On College Basketball Discord, as well as the Everydayers Club, where you get ad-free audio versions of the show. Go check that out. Those links are in the show notes. As always, apologies to the Lawyer family and the Sanford family. Let's go Wild Popes. Cheers to the McBruins. And until Monday, peace.